Welcome to a very, very special edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I've done a lot of these episodes with Matt and from Matt's house, and this is Matt's neighbor, Glen Doucet. Hello, Glen.
Hi, Tim. Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. And Glen has this mythical record collection that Matt was always talking about. I was over to see it once, and the breadth of it is amazing, and his displays are totally professional. So thought it would be really cool to do an episode where we spotlight Glen's collection. He was polite enough to let us into his home. So we're going to take a look at what Glen's got, and he's going to talk about some of his favorite vinyl. So Glen, obviously you've been collecting vinyl for a long time.
I've been collecting since I was a kid, and I never stopped. When people were getting rid of their vinyl and getting into CDs, I kept buying vinyl even though I was buying CDs.
Yeah.
I still was buying vinyl anywhere I could find it.
Yeah, and
whatever I was looking for.
There were years, like now vinyl's
come back,
kind of plentiful, which is great, but there were some lean years.
Oh, yeah.
So, and by doing that, you've picked up some albums along the way that have become quite scarce.
Yes, I have. I've been fortunate to pick up some really nice stuff and scarce. And when I look at stuff, I buy it because I'm interested in listening to it.
Right. First,
and I don't really buy it because it's rare.
Right.
Well, sometimes I do, but most of the time it's not because it's worth anything. It's worth something to me.
To you, yeah.
And I've been very lucky over the years. I've got a very understanding wife.
Yeah, that's important.
I think we all do.
Who's okay with what I do.
That's very, very important.
This is all I do. I mean, this is what I do. I don't, I'm not
Same
into
here.
much else.
That's music's my hobby, and so let's take a look at Glen's Glen's office here. I guess you could call it your sanctuary.
My sanctuary, my music room.
So what you see here, this is just a very small sampling of some of Glen's vinyl. And I see right away one of my favorite bands, Kansas, right there. That's Freaks of Nature, which originally came out in 95. And it was only just released on vinyl. Yep. It was on CD and cassette. And I see right behind it, I recognize that logo. And see, already there's something that I don't have. I've got the CD to Leftover to Beyond. I did an episode about it. There it is on record. But anyway, enough about that. They're just one of my favorites. But Glen, your basic setup here, it's obviously you know where everything is.
I do, yeah. I mean, my vinyl is pretty much in the order I want it, in alphabetical order. My CDs and concert DVDs, not so much. I know where everything is, but you really have to look. I mean, it's spread all over. It's here, it's back there, it's in the other room.
It's in an order you understand.
Yeah.
It's your stuff.
Yeah.
So what's behind, this is the cool thing, what's behind these drawers here, Glen?
So when I had this room built, I designed this and had this built specifically for me because I had a growing collection. So basically, I had 8 drawers built. They're all completely full.
Order.
Yeah, arranged like an old school record store.
Yeah,
alphabetically by artist. Amazing. And not only that, but just looking at this really quick, Glen, I know about a lot of obscure bands. You've got groups here that I've barely heard of. When I look at things like Mondo Drag.
Mondo Drag's very new.
Oh, they are new.
They're
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me find a better example. Or bands that I have heard of but don't know anything about, like Lucifer's Friend, Magnum, Molly Oliver, Jojo Gunn. You've got some pretty cool stuff here. It's amazing. Kind of lost my train of thought there, but Nectar, I know they're a progressive group. That's about all I know. New York Dolls. I mean, New York Dolls had like 2 albums in the 70s, and yet this is a good example. And yet, look what Glen's got here. So the Johnny Thunder. So he's got his solo stuff in here as well. A lot of Johnny Thunders. So I would assume there's some live.
There's
albums.
some recent.
That's a more recent album.
They did put out 3 recent albums, but the original band only put out 2 albums. That's a reissue. This is the original I bought.
Get your name on it.
Yeah, and
that's the first. That's the first album. So just to give you an example of the kind of level of detail that Glen goes into, and over here there's more So yeah, now we're into Procol Harum, Queen, Rainbow, of course Rush, one of my favorites. I'm just curious to see what it's the first thing I find from Rush is Rush Through Time, which is a compilation that was only released overseas. You don't see it all the time, and the band themselves disavowed it. So yeah, just looking through here, you're going to find pretty much complete collections.
I'm very much a completist. When I find somebody, a band or an artist I like, even though they might not have stuff that's all that great, I'll buy it anyway because I like the complete collections.
I'm exactly the same.
So yeah, now some of these, of course, I can't show you because I've got
other records.
I've got other albums like
Yeah.
these 2 rows I haven't even listened to yet.
Okay.
This one I've listened to once. I like to listen to everything twice and then file it away. So I listen to usually on average 4 to 5 albums a day. I'm retired now, so I can do that.
That's great.
But as you can see, I'm way ahead of myself on what I can listen to, keep up with, I guess.
Yeah. So now as we move over to this wall, these are primarily picture discs.
Yes.
And I'm just going to we'll get into this in a second, but I'm just going to take a wild guess that one of your favorite bands, also judging by your shirt, is Uriah Heep.
Yeah, they would be probably the top.
Right up there.
Yep.
I guess, as someone who's vaguely familiar with Uriah Heep, I know a few of their songs. If somebody was going to start with Uriah Heep, where would be a good place to start?
Oh, wow. Well, they're still going, for one thing.
Right, yeah, they're still putting out albums.
They've toured.
Yeah.
They were on a big tour right now of U.S. and Canada. They're putting a new album out in this fall. Where to start? I mean, when you've put out 25 studio albums and countless live albums.
I know, that's a tough one. But I know that Demons and Wizards is generally one that's talked about.
Demons and Wizards, Magician's Birthday, Look at Yourself. Those 3 are what I call the core 3 that a lot of people would listen to.
Right.
They're their early stuff, but they've put out so much beyond that that's so great, in my opinion anyway.
And they've had several different lineups as well.
Yeah,
So
they have.
So you've got picture discs here of not just Uriah Heep. There's Magnum, Deep Purple, Bowie, the band Charlie, another band that I'm somewhat familiar with. Black Sabbath, that's Black Sabbath, the Ian Gillan era.
That's Ian Gillan and Bev
Bevan from ELO.
Yeah.
Meatloaf.
Grand Funk. This one is that's Mark Farner.
So a lot of cool stuff. That's Elf. That's Ronnie James Dio's band pre-Rainbow. So as you can see, it's not just stuff that you're going to run into at your average store. Glenn knows what he's looking for. He seeks it out. I mean, you've even got a Uriah Heep toy truck over here. 2 of them.
2 of them.
They
come from Germany. I got them from a guy on eBay that was selling them. They're kind of unique. I don't know anybody else that has them actually. Just something I found that I'd like to have in my collection, and that is their logo at the time. We saw them in 2011 in New Hampshire, and I got the entire band signed it.
That's awesome.
And since then, Trevor Boulder's passed away.
That's right. And Trevor Boulder was, if I'm not mistaken, was he not also a member of the
Spiders from
Mars? Yeah. So
he was the original bass player for David Bowie and Spiders from Mars, and so yeah.
And this isn't even it. Come with us. There's another room to show you all this stuff. So this reminds me very much of going into record stores like Sam the Record Man when they had a vinyl section that took up the entire side. So here we have, this is where it starts. Starts with the A's. So here we go, Babe Ruth. I know that's a group that you talked about. Yes. Atomic Rooster, Blue Oyster Cult. I know about Blue Oyster Cult. Barabbas, or Barabbas, if however you say that. ELP, Family, Focus. Great variety of stuff here. And there's more, right? There's more down here.
Wow.
So here we are into the C's.
So of course I'm a big Bowie fan. Big Alice Cooper fan. You're going to find some things in there that are very obscure, like Capability Brown.
Wow.
They're an obscure UK band. They only put out a few albums. I got into them because they covered a couple of songs from a band, one of my favorite bands, Rare Bird. So that's how I found out about them. So yeah, you'll see a lot of different.
So there's different names here that are varying levels of recognition, like Graham Edge band. Graham Edge, was he not in the
From the
Moody Blues?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I see the Hollies there.
Ian Hunter, Maka Hoople, Guess Who. I mean, not all of it's obscure, but it's so complete. The level of completeness is just astounding. So, I mean, with all of these, I mean, like all of us, we have big, a lot of us have big collections, not to this extent. But, Glenn, have you got some favorite albums you'd like to show us and tell us about?
Yes, I do. That's hard to choose from, but I do have some things that I picked out.
Hey, Will. Hi.
So Glenn, you've got some stuff out here. Tell us about it.
So I've picked out a few things. This is the Pink Floyd collection. Now, this is an Italian import. It's all of their albums up to the wall. The only thing that was missing when I bought it was the soundtrack for More, which I already had, so I just put it in there. But everything else, I don't think I've even played it. Okay. I had already listened to everything because I'm a big Pink Floyd fan.
So you've got copies. You've got other copies of these that you
already. Yeah, this is just a complete set, which is very unique and rare. I've never seen another one like it. So this is what it looks like.
So this is an EMI release. And
what year was that, Glenn?
Well, you know what? That's a good question, Matt. I'm not sure.
It would be at least 1980.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because it came out after the wall, so it's on the Harvest label. Harvest EMI.
Can I just see the back of it for a second?
Sure.
So it's got the titles of each album that's on there.
Very cool.
Yeah, honestly, when I saw this, I could tell it was a Pink Floyd release of some sort, but I thought it was newer, but it's not.
No, it's yeah. This is kind of special to me. Uriah Heep did an acoustic with an orchestra back in 2001, I think it was, and you could subscribe to it and kind of helped the band do what they did. And which I did, and there's a booklet. So it's a real neat concert. They took a lot of their classic hits, I guess, and some of their more obscure stuff, and did it acoustically.
Okay. The special guest Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull.
Yeah. And so the booklet that's here, and it's all signed by the members of the band, including Lee Kerslake, who had to retire because of his health. And in the booklet is a list of all the subscribers, and my name's in the booklet.
Okay, so this is sort of like a pledge. Now they do these with Pledge Music and Kickstarter, where
yes, they do.
Depending on what you pay, you can pay to get your name in the credits. This is the first time I've actually seen. I've actually met someone who did that. I'll take an autographed CD.
Yeah, so that's kind of special for me.
You got a very interesting set here we're about to look at.
Hawkwind.
Okay, this is Hawkwind. Now, I've had this album since it came out in 1975. I've got the Canadian pressing, it's not gatefold. I found this. It's a remastered edition. It's been done on vinyl, on CD, and also on DVD. So what caught my eye was the original issue on vinyl was the special gatefold. Kind of unique.
Holy cow.
So pretty clever.
So yeah, it forms a whole scene, which you don't get with the single sleeve, and the gatefold was kind of it wasn't a popular. I shouldn't say popular. We didn't get it here unless it was imported.
Because they were more popular in the UK. So Hawkwind, for those of you who are just like younger fans, that was Lemmy's band before Motorhead. They didn't sound anything like Motorhead, but
and it really wasn't Lemmy's band.
He was a member. He was a member.
Yeah.
I try to for people my age and younger, they are, if you can link a member, I find it.
Exactly. And
so they were sort of
like space rock is what
space
they
rock?
refer to them. Very psychedelic, progressive. So it's very unique to have that. This is another one. Now this was at second spin today. I've never seen this in the original pressing. This is an Italian pressing, a Karma. They've done a lot of rare stuff that you can't find. So I'm assuming they've done it through the with the original master tapes, but I don't know that for sure. So this is kind of a unique. Just got to open it here. The way it opens.
Yeah, it's
like a multi.
okay. I see.
And then when you open it up completely,
it's a cross.
It's a cross, and it's got a burning. I think it's a sheep's head or something like that.
Okay.
And then on the flip side,
That's
is a wolf at the top, and then it's got credits and I guess a little bit of guess when it was recorded and things like that. So yeah. So
that's a unique fold concept.
Well, it is. They're an obscure band. I think they're Spanish, from what I remember. I don't quote me on that. But.
So how did you hear of this? Did you hear of this band back in the day?
No.
Or was this okay? This
This is something I found out recently.
Okay.
And just because they were comparing them to Uriah Heep, Deep Purple.
I see. So they were mentioned in the same
kind of breath. So I thought any bands that are kind of referred to in that same vein, I'm curious as to what they're
to check them out.
So I found this, and it is good, very good. So this is something else that's unique. It's released by Uriah Heep in 1995, I believe, and it was only ever released on vinyl in Germany. Everywhere else it was released on CD.
CD, yeah.
So I was able to find this. So it's kind of unique to have.
I'm just going to guess, just from looking at that, looks like Roger Dean artwork, because it also looks like it could be a Yes album cover, because he did the majority of their artwork. Very, 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 very distinctive style. So
he's done a lot of artwork, and just happens to. I have a lot of bands that
samples of it.
Well, yeah, a lot of the bands that I've listened to and collected over the years, he's done a lot of the artwork for them.
Similar to me in Rush with Hugh Symes' artwork, I can spot his style in different places.
Yeah. Ken Hensley was the Uriah Heep's keyboard player from 1970 to 1980 and their principal songwriter. So I've collected all of his solo stuff as well. This was a release of his on CD. You know what? I'd have to look and see what year it was. But they
2012 here, but that might have been when it was reissued.
This is when it was reissued on vinyl, and so it was only limited to 200 pressings or 200 copies. I've got number 124. So it's kind of a unique. It's just the. It opens up.
So it's not even glued together.
It's not even glued together. So it's kind of a unique one to have, and with it came a picture that's autographed. So I'll put that over here.
This is an interesting looking cover you've got here.
So this one, now you've seen this probably at Second Spin. I don't know if Matt has. This is a Canadian band, Jackal. Okay. They put out one album. The only time you'll ever see it probably is when is the reissue, and the one that was at Second Spin was a reissue.
Yeah.
This is the original on the Tiny Periwinkle label.
Not to be confused with the American band Jackal with a Y from the early 90s at all.
Not at all. No, this is the original Periwinkle label.
It's an interesting label.
Yes, it is. And odd enough, I found this in Zeller's Dustbin.
Wow.
Years ago, and probably paid no more than 50 cents for it. But it is good. It's I guess maybe a typical hard rock, but it is a good album.
Yeah, from early 70s.
That's what it looks like. I don't have my glasses on. I can't see maybe you can see it.
I don't see a date on here.
It's early 70s, 72 maybe, 73. And this one, we'll go to this one. One of my favorite bands is Rare Bird. They were a UK band. Very unique when they started in 1968 is they had no guitar player. They had bass, drums, and 2 keyboards.
Okay.
2 sets of keyboards. And this is their actual 3rd album, and after the first 2 albums, the principal guy in the band, Graham Field, left, and the drummer left, and they reformed. Well, they just added new guys, and this is their 3rd album. I've had it since I bought it from a record company similar to what Columbia House used to be.
Okay, mail order.
It was a mail order Canadian version back in the early 70s. So I got it when it came out, but it was just the single sleeve North American version. This is the UK import with the 45 with 4 extra songs that are not on the album. And the only place you can get them is on this.
So it's got a
special spot to hold it.
Yeah.
And it also comes with the poster, which is even rarer.
So this I can see from the back. This was released on Polydor, so it was a major label band. Not that that matters, but just to bring it into context.
And so there's the open up poster here. So, and again, I'd have to read up on it. I can't remember what the poster is from. It's a reproduction of some painting, but I can't remember what it was.
It looks similar to, not somebody that looks like knows much about art, but it looks similar to the Garden of Earthly Delights by Munch. No, what's the name? Deep Purple used it on one of their album covers. Black Sabbath had a best of that used it. It was like a Hell on Earth sort of
NEMS, on the NEMS label.
That is exactly right. Yes, yeah, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
So as I mentioned, Graham Field left the band and formed another band, mainly because they were going to go broke. They were with the Charisma label, the Charisma label, and they were not doing well there. So he left and formed his own band called Fields. This is their only album. What's unique about this is, if you can find it, you're not going to find this, which is the poster that came with it. This is the UK import. So this is the poster that came with the UK import.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the original North American one did not have that. What's nice about this too is I've actually become friends with Graham and his wife Pam, who live in England, and there's a picture of him today. He's actually in his 80s. He's 81.
Wow. There's
a picture of him and his wife. There's a picture of Mark Ashton, who was the drummer, who lives in France, and his girlfriend. They sent me these pictures. I was able to supply Graham with footage of Rare Bird that they didn't have any access
that's
to.
Amazing.
His own kids hadn't seen him perform.
Okay.
So I was a member of this forum, Rare Bird forum, years ago online, and we exchanged videos, and I put it together and sent them a copy of it. And so his wife could see it, and his kids could see it. So ever since then, we've remained in touch.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I thought that was
what I have to ask you, see Mark Ashton. Is that the same Ashton that was a member of Pace Ashton and Lord, or is that a different?
No, different
Ashton.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, this is interesting because it's on the CBS label. It's got the Columbia I logo, but it's not Columbia. It's just strictly CBS. That stood out to me.
Yeah. And now I don't know a lot into the labels and their different, the different aspects of them.
Normally, when you see that I label, it is CBS or what would later become Sony, but it's usually just Columbia. So
yeah,
that's interesting that they just kind of called it CBS.
Yeah.
Now this album I have seen before.
So, of course, this is Uriah Heep's very first album. in England, it's the UK import. In England, it was called Very Heavy, Very Humble. In North America, it was just Uriah Heep.
Self-titled, yeah.
Now this one is hard to find simply because it's on the Vertigo label, which was the very first pressing.
I know a lot of people that collect records talk about the Vertigo swirl.
Yep.
And that's what they're referring to as the very distinctive label that they used. Almost hypnotic watching it on a record player.
Yes. And so it took me a long time to find this. So it was really nice when I did finally add it to my collection.
Now the material on that one, Glenn, it doesn't look like it's cardboard.
It's laminated.
It's laminated. Okay, I knew it looked shinier than most.
A lot of the European imports that were all laminated, which is really nice. They hold up better than ours. A lot of the European imports as well were gatefold. A lot of times when we got them, they were single sleeve. They did away with the gatefold. A lot of times they do away with the extras like the posters and things like that. So when you can find these things, it's nice. It just adds to the importance of it for you, I guess.
The gatefolds, of course, cost more. So if you had, unless you were dealing with a band that was selling equal amounts popularity, record companies would tend to go for the cheaper option.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And this is another Uriah Heep. This is after 20 years. Of course, they're 48 years in the music business now, but this was a collection put together after 20 years. And it was called 2 Decades in Rock. There's 4 albums on this, and I think it's 4. It's been a while
5
since I
record
played it.
set on the side.
5 record set. Okay, so it's 5. There's also a booklet in here that has a lot of quotes from a lot of famous other artists as well. Because when Uriah Heep in their early years, a lot of the bands now that are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, such as Rush and Kiss, they were opening for these guys.
Yeah, on the Rush documentary, Mick Box from Uriah Heep talks about remembering Rush opening for them very, very early on. I think they're one of their first tours.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this here, it's a band called Leafhound. Leafhound they put out one album in 1971 it was, I believe. Peter French was the singer. Peter French went on to be in Atomic Rooster. I'd have to Google to see what else he was on, but he reformed the band a few years ago. Put out a new album. It's on CD. I've got it. He did a short little tour of Japan. I was lucky enough to get this from a seller in Japan. It's the album on green vinyl of the live concert.
That's a striking colored green.
As well as the DVD. And just a little fold out with all the lyrics and on the lyrics on the back and a picture of the band on the front. And I guess this is just a leaflet of the actual concert. So that's kind of a unique, not very many people would have. Another obscure, this is by an artist called Kevin Lamb. Now, how I found out about Kevin Lamb is, as I mentioned, I'm a big Rare Bird fan. Well, Kevin Lamb was on one of their later albums. He actually contributed to a few songs. He only put out 2 solo albums. He has now passed away. And this one I actually found from a guy in Korea on eBay. I couldn't find it. I've never been able to find it. I found it from him a couple of years ago, and so it's really good stuff. It's a kind of a folk rock. His second album actually has I think it's the drummer from the Police playing on it.
Stuart Copeland.
Well, okay, maybe not Stuart Copeland. The bass player.
Well, it was Sting.
Okay, well, the guitar player. Then.
Andy Summers.
Andy, that's
Okay.
there we go.
Okay.
We got it.
Andy
You got a
Summers.
1 in 3 shot.
Andy Summers. So
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's kind of some of my more unique. Well, a few other things as well. I guess I'll mention these while we're.
So I haven't seen one of these in a long time that
What is
used to
that?
keep singles in.
Yeah. So what I've got here, these are a few 45s that I picked up on eBay. David Byron, who was the original singer for Uriah Heep from 1970 to 1976, before he became famous with Uriah Heep, he was just a struggling artist. So he was doing, along with Elton John, who was White Reginald at the time,
Yeah.
were doing top hits of the day, put out on this label in London, England called Avenue Records.
So they were singing versions of popular songs.
Popular songs. So I was fortunate enough, I picked up a few of them on eBay. There's more of them. I also have, they've redone them all on CD, as many as they could find so far, from the original master tapes.
Yeah.
I've got all of the ones they've done 5 of them so far. But I've got some of the 45s that has David singing lead, sometimes Elton singing backup, sometimes Elton singing lead and David
Wow.
singing backup, and other artists as well.
Now, if you didn't know, could you tell who it was singing?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I know David Byron's voice because I've
Right.
listened to him since I was a kid. So, you can recognize their voices, both
Yeah.
him and Elton John. They're very distinct. So it's kind of I've only got a few of them, but they they are kind of a nice thing to have in my collection.
So I know Uriah Heep, Pink Floyd, Rare Bird. Who are some of your favorite artists that you can talk about?
Well, Matt asked me to give you a top 10 while I'm on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I was up to probably 70, but I'll cut it down to maybe 20. How's that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so Uriah Heep, Pink Floyd, Rare Bird, Budgie.
Let's talk about that for a second. Now, Budgie is a group. Again, we're doing this for I don't want to say a younger audience because I'm not young, but Budgie, if anybody out there's a Metallica fan, they might know the name Budgie because Metallica covered Bread Fan and Crash Course in Brain Surgery. So they're one of those more obscure bands, at least in North America, that because of later bands covering them. And the other thing I know about them is that they had some really cool artwork, and some of it I believe done by Roger Dean.
Yep, some by Roger Dean. If you took Black Sabbath and crossed them with Rush,
You'd get Budgie.
you'd get Budgie.
Yeah.
Basically, I've listened to them since I was young. I've got all of their stuff on vinyl and CD. I've just always liked their guitar player from their early years. Tony Borge was every bit of a riff guy as anybody else that was out there at the time. He just didn't get recognized.
Right.
So continuing on, Babe Ruth, Charlie, New York Dolls, David Bowie, Alice Cooper, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, April Wine, a newer band. I say newer; they're 20 years old. Mostly Autumn.
Yep.
They're a UK band.
I've read about them in Classic Rock magazine.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm heavily into them. I really like their stuff. Three Dog Night, Straubs, Grand Funk, Barclay James Harvest, Moody Blues, Supertramp, and Iron Butterfly. And I've just highlighted those. My list. This is just probably
Just a few. Yeah.
probably my top ones. I mean, I've got a lot of other stuff as well, but that's just. I mean, I even get into things, like Louis Armstrong. I love Louis Armstrong.
You mentioned Supertramp. Did you go to the Classic Albums live performance
No, I
of
didn't.
Breakfast in America?
No.
Will did.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's not
Like that-
them, but it's them.
Yeah,
If you know Classic
yeah.
Albums live is all
Yeah,
about it.
I saw them a number of years ago. Yeah. So no, I didn't see the classic lives.
So, as far as that list goes, I love Alice Cooper. I think we're all big Alice Cooper fans. I like Deep Purple. Love April Wine. So, yeah, no, this has been very, very cool, Glenn. And you've got an astounding collection, and it's well displayed, and it's something I keep in mind. I'm thinking, now, what can I do with what I've got? And I thought, wish I had Glenn's set up. So,
I've been very fortunate to be able to do what I did, and I've got I've got a big collection. It's in with what I like. You know, other people. You know, that's I guess what's great about music. It's so subjective.
Absolutely.
It's based on your likes, your dislikes, your influences, where you grew up.
What was popular when you were of a certain age, just getting into music? That's got a lot to do with it.
A lot to do with it. I had an aunt of mine give me 4 albums when I was very young. Beatles' Help album, Rubber Soul, a band called The Outsiders, Time Won't Let Me was the name of the album, and a band called Wayne Fontana and the Mindbenders. I've still got all of those albums. And that was really the introduction to me into my wider range of music.
So what, are there anything, and I'm sure there must be, because once you start collecting, it's hard to stop. Are there any sort of holy grail items out there by anybody that you cannot find, you'd love to get your hands on?
Oh.
And let's narrow it down. Like, is there a Uriah Heep, a version of an album, or some sort of oddity out there, or anybody that you can think of?
Nothing off the top of my head. I've picked up just about every rare Uriah Heep item that I can think of, or that I know of.
Did you get the Deep Purple Bananas record?
Pardon me, Matt?
Did you get Deep Purple Bananas?
I don't have, no, that's a good one. I don't have the Deep Purple Bananas vinyl. I've got it on CD, but I don't have the vinyl, and the vinyl's obscure.
Still looking for that for you.
Another one is a later Nazareth album. I was able to get the reissue. It was only ever released in Germany, so it's... trying to remember the name of the album now. But
Snakes and Ladders?
Snakes and Ladders.
Yeah, that came out in like 89. I have that in any form, but yeah. Some of their albums, there was a drop-off period in North America after like 2XS.
So those are two that, you know, they're hard to find because they were only released in Europe. And, you know, they weren't big press, a lot of pressing.
That's right. If you're looking for something that wasn't a particularly successful album, you're limited to however many they pressed in the first place, and that just makes it really tough to...
And makes it very pricey to get. Supply and demand.
And then when you do get somebody that has one, they know people are looking for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, this has been really great. This is a different format episode for me, but I was really glad to do it. I really appreciate you taking the time to show us your quite, impressive collection. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching this very special edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.